The alarm bells rang through the human spaceship as red lights flashed in every room. Captain Jake Morrison ran down the metal hallway, his boots making loud sounds on the floor. Smoke was coming from the engine room, and the ship was shaking badly. "What's wrong?" Jake asked as he reached the control room. His crew was working fast, pressing buttons and checking screens. "The main engine is broken, sir," said Lieutenant Kevin Hart. "We can't fix it with what we have here. We need help, or we'll be stuck in space forever." Jake looked at the big screen that showed the stars around them. They were far from Earth, exploring new parts of space that humans had never seen before. The nearest human base was months away, too far to reach with their broken ship. "Sir, I'm getting a signal," said Communications Officer Betty Stone. "It's coming from a planet nearby. They're asking if we need help." Jake was surprised. They didn't know any humans lived in this part of space. "Put them on the main screen," he said. The screen changed, and Jake saw something he had never seen before. The creature looking back at him was not human. It looked like a giant insect, but it was wearing clothes and sitting in what looked like a control room. The strangest thing was that its body was glowing with soft, changing colors. "Hello," the creature said in perfect English. "We are the Villani. We see your ship is in trouble. Do you need our help?" Jake didn't know what to say. This was the first time humans had met aliens who could talk to them. "Yes," he said finally. "Our engine is broken. We can't fix it ourselves. We will send a repair ship to you," the Villani said. "Our people are good at fixing things. Don't worry." 2 hours later, a strange ship arrived next to theirs. It was smooth and white, with no sharp edges like human ships. It looked more like it had grown than been built. 3 Villani came aboard the human ship. They were about as tall as humans, but moved differently, like they were dancing instead of walking. Dr. Lisa Harper, the ship's science officer, watched them with wonder. She had studied alien life for years, but she never thought she would actually meet aliens who could talk and think like humans. The Villani looked at the broken engine and began to work. They used tools that Jake had never seen before. The tools seemed alive, changing shape as they worked. In just a few hours, the Villani had fixed what would have taken human engineers weeks to repair. "Thank you," Jake said to the lead Villani, who had told them her name was Zixthera. "How can we pay you back?" Zixthera's body glowed with soft blue and green lights. Dr. Harper realized this was how the Villani talked to each other, using colors instead of words. "We don't want payment," Zixthera said. "Helping others is what we do. But why help strangers?" Jake asked. "You don't even know us." "All life is connected," Zixthera replied. "When one suffers, all suffer. When one is helped, all are helped." Dr. Harper stepped forward. "Can you tell us about your people? We're explorers, and we'd love to learn about your world." Zixthera's lights became dim and sad. "Our world is beautiful, but we are in great danger. Would you like to see?" Jake nodded, and Zixthera invited them to visit her planet. The human ship followed the Villani ship to a green and blue world that looked like a garden in space. As they got closer, Jake could see cities that glowed with soft light, like the Villani themselves. When they landed, Jake and his crew were amazed. The Villani cities were made of living buildings that grew from the ground like trees. The streets were covered with soft, glowing moss that felt warm under their feet. Everywhere they looked, they saw beautiful art made of light and color. "This is incredible," Dr. Harper said, taking pictures and making notes. "Your people have created something wonderful here." But as they walked through the city, Jake noticed something was wrong. There weren't many Villani around, and those they saw looked tired and worried. The lights on their bodies were dim and flickering. Zixthera led them to a great hall in the center of the city. Inside, hundreds of Villani were gathered, their bodies glowing with sad, dark colors. An old Villani stood at the front, speaking to the crowd in flashing lights. "What's happening?" Jake asked. The Elder is telling our people about the new message from the Galactic Council, Zixtera explained. The other alien races have decided we are not worthy to exist. What do you mean? Dr. Harper asked, horrified. Zixtera's lights turned deep red with anger and fear. The Galactic Council is made up of 12 powerful alien races. They rule this part of space. They say we are weak because we don't fight wars. They say we are useless because we don't have weapons. But you just fixed our ship, Jake said. You have amazing technology. We make things that heal and help, Zixtera replied. We grow food and create beauty. But the Council only cares about weapons and war. They have told all the other races to stop trading with us. They won't let us travel to other worlds. They are slowly killing us. Jake felt angry. These people had helped him when he needed it most, and now he learned they were being punished for being peaceful. There's more, Zixtera continued. The Caltharian Empire, the strongest member of the Council, has given us an ultimatum. We must become their slaves and work in their mines, or they will destroy our planet. When? Dr. Harper asked. In 30 days, Zixtera said. Our people are meeting to decide what to do. Some want to fight, but we have no weapons. Others want to surrender and become slaves. But most just want to pray that someone will help us. Jake looked around at the gathered Villani. Their lights were flickering like candles in the wind. These gentle people had created something beautiful, and now they were going to be destroyed because they chose peace over war. What about Earth? Jake asked. Have you heard of humans before? No, Zixtera said. Are your people part of the Galactic Council? We've been trying to join for years, Jake admitted, but they keep rejecting our application. Zixtera's lights brightened a little with hope. Maybe your people could help us. Maybe they could speak to the Council for us. Jake wanted to help, but he knew the truth. Earth was desperate to join the Galactic Council. If humans went against the Council to help the Villani, they might never be accepted. Earth might even become a target. But looking at these peaceful, helpful people, Jake knew what was right. I'll take your message to Earth, he promised. I can't promise what they'll decide, but I'll make sure they know what's happening here. As the human crew prepared to leave Zephyria, Dr. Harper couldn't stop thinking about the Villani. They had shown her wonders beyond imagination, but they were about to be destroyed. She made a decision that would change everything. Captain, she said to Jake, I want to stay here and study their culture. If something happens to them, someone should record who they were. Jake understood. I'll come back for you, he promised, and I'll bring help if I can. As the human ship left Zephyria, Jake looked back at the glowing planet. Somewhere down there, a gentle people was waiting for a miracle. He just hoped Earth would be that miracle. Admiral Pete Collins sat in his office on Luna Station, looking at the report that Captain Morrison had sent from the edge of known space. He read it 3 times, each time becoming more troubled. The coffee in his cup had gone cold, but he didn't notice. Sir? His assistant knocked on the door. The president is calling. Pete picked up the secure phone. Collins here. Pete, I just read Morrison's report about these Villani aliens, President Helen Carter said. Is this real? Morrison is one of our best captains, Pete replied. If he says these people are peaceful and need help, I believe him. But we have a problem. The Galactic Council application, the president said, understanding immediately. Exactly. We've been trying to join for 20 years. They keep saying we're not ready, that we need to prove ourselves. If we go against them now, we might never get another chance, the president finished. But Pete, these Villanis sound like good people. Can we really just let them die? Pete had been asking himself the same question all night. I don't know, ma'am, but I think we need to discuss this with the full cabinet. Meanwhile, back on Zephyria, Dr. Lisa Harper was living among the Villani, learning about their culture. Each day, she discovered new wonders. The Villani could heal almost any injury with their biotechnology. Their farmers could make plants grow in soil that should have been dead. Their artists created living paintings that changed and moved like dreams. But each day also brought new fears. The countdown to the Caltharian ultimatum was getting shorter. The Villani were trying to prepare, but they had no idea how to fight a war. Their tools were made for creating, not destroying. Lisa Zixtera said, finding the human woman in the great library. We have received another message from the Caltharians. Lisa looked up from the glowing book she was studying. The Villani books were alive, showing moving pictures and changing words as she read. What did they say? They are sending ships to watch us. They want to make sure we don't try to escape or ask for help. Zixtera's body lights dimmed with worry. General Vexstar himself is coming to make sure we understand our choices. Who is General Vexstar? The most feared Caltharian warrior. He has destroyed 12 worlds that refused to join the council. They say he enjoys watching planets burn. Lisa felt sick. She had been sending daily reports to Earth through a hidden transmitter, begging her people to help. But she had received no response. Earth was probably too busy trying to impress the Galactic Council to care about one small planet. On Earth, the emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council was not going well. The room was full of shouting as representatives argued about what to do. We cannot risk humanity's future for aliens we just discovered, General Rick Barnes said loudly. The Galactic Council controls this entire region of space. If we make them angry, they could destroy Earth. But if we let the Villani be enslaved, what does that say about us? Secretary of State Carol West replied, Are we the kind of people who only help others when it's convenient? President Carter listened to both sides. She had read Dr. Harper's reports about the Villani. These people sounded amazing, but Barnes was right about the danger. Earth had only recently learned how to travel between stars. They were like children compared to the older alien races. What about our application to join the council? Asked Defense Secretary Tony Marshall. We've been waiting for 20 years. If we anger them now, we might wait another 20 years. Or longer, Barnes added. They might decide we're too dangerous to ever let in. Commander Amy Stone, Earth's liaison to the Galactic Council, had been quiet during the meeting. Now she stood up. I need to tell you all something. I've been attending council meetings for 3 years, watching how they operate. Everyone turned to look at her. Amy was young for such an important job, but she was smart and brave. She had been Earth's voice to the alien races. The council isn't what we thought it was, Amy continued. They don't care about peace or cooperation. They only care about power. Species that can't fight are seen as worthless. Species that won't fight are seen as threats to their way of thinking. What are you saying? The president asked. I'm saying that even if we join the council, we'll never be equals. We'll just be another group of slaves, following their orders. The Villani are being punished because they remind the council that there's another way to live. General Barnes shook his head. That's just your opinion. We need facts, not feelings. Amy activated a holographic projector. These are recordings from council meetings. Watch how they talk about the Villani. The room filled with images of alien creatures sitting around a huge table. The largest alien, covered in black scales and spikes, was speaking. The Villani are a disease, the creature said. They spread the idea that civilizations can survive without conquest. This weakens the resolve of younger species. They must be eliminated as an example. Another alien, this one looking like a crystal spider, added, Their technology could be useful, but their ideas are dangerous. Better to use them as workers and destroy their culture. The room fell silent as the recording ended. Even General Barnes looked disturbed. That was General Vexstar, Amy explained, and the spider thing is council leader Zeke. This is what they really think about peaceful species. President Carter felt her decision becoming clearer. What would happen if we tried to help the Villani? They'd probably try to destroy us too, Barnes said. Our military is nothing compared to theirs, but we have advantages they don't expect, said Admiral Collins, speaking for the first time. They've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They expect their enemies to fight back the same way. Humans are different. How? The president asked. We're stubborn, Collins said with a slight smile. And we're creative. We've had to fight stronger enemies before and find ways to win. Plus, the Villani might not be the only species that's tired of council rule. Amy nodded. In my time with the council, I've noticed that many species seem unhappy. They follow orders because they're afraid, not because they agree. If someone stood up to the council, others might follow. The debate continued for hours. Some wanted to help the Villani immediately. Others wanted to try diplomacy first. A few still thought Earth should stay out of alien politics completely. Finally, President Carter called for a vote, all in favor of attempting to help the Villani. Hands went up around the room. It was close, but the majority voted to help. All opposed. More hands went up, but fewer than before. The motion passes, President Carter announced. We will attempt to help the Villani people. Admiral Collins, start preparing our fleet. As the meeting ended, General Barnes approached the president. Ma'am, I hope you know what you're doing. This could be the end of everything we've worked for. Maybe, the president replied. But if we don't try to help people who need us, what's the point of everything we've worked for? Back on Zephyria, Dr. Harper was watching the night sky when she saw new lights appearing. Ships were arriving, but these weren't the gentle, curved vessels of the Villani. These ships were dark and angular, covered in weapons. The Caltharians are here, Zixtera said, joining Lisa on the observation platform. General Vexstar wants to meet with our leaders tomorrow. What will you tell him? The truth, that we cannot become slaves, but we also cannot fight. We will ask for more time to consider our options. And if he says no, Zixthera's lights flickered sadly. Then we will die as free people, rather than live as slaves. The next morning, the Villani leaders gathered in their great hall. Dr. Harper was allowed to watch from a hidden spot as General Vexstar arrived. The Caltharian was huge, even bigger than he had looked in the council recordings. His black scales seemed to absorb light, and his red eyes glowed like coals. Villani worms, he said, his voice like grinding stone. Have you decided to serve the council, or do I get to burn your pretty planet? The Villani elder, an ancient creature whose lights barely flickered, stood to face him. We are a peaceful people. We cannot fight you, but we cannot become slaves either. We ask for more time to find another solution. Vexstar laughed, a horrible sound like metal tearing. There is no other solution. You are weak, so you will serve the strong. That is the way of the universe. It is not our way, the elder replied calmly. Then you will all die, Vexstar said. I will give you 3 more days to reconsider. After that, I will show this galaxy what happens to species that refuse the Council's generosity. As the Caltharian general left, Dr. Harper felt tears in her eyes. These beautiful, peaceful people were going to be destroyed, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. But unknown to her, far away in space, the human fleet was already moving toward Zephyria. Admiral Collins had decided not to wait for official orders. By the time the politicians finished arguing, it might be too late. The race was on, and the fate of 2 species hung in the balance. President Helen Carter couldn't sleep. She walked through the White House halls at 3 in the morning, thinking about the choice her nation faced. In her hand, she held Dr. Harper's latest message from Zephyria. The words kept running through her mind. They're going to die in 3 days, and they're still trying to help others. The emergency session of the United Nations Security Council would meet again in 6 hours. Some countries wanted to help the Villani, but others were afraid. China's representative had been very clear. We cannot risk a war with aliens over people. We just met. Russia's delegate agreed. Earth must think of Earth first. But Helen had read every report from Zephyria. These Villani weren't just innocent victims. They were something special. In just a few weeks, Dr. Harper had been with them. They had shared medical knowledge that could save millions of human lives. They had given her crop-growing techniques that could end hunger on Earth. They asked for nothing in return. Can't sleep either. Helen turned to see General Rick Barnes walking toward her. He looked as tired as she felt. I keep thinking about what Amy showed us, Helen said. Those council recordings. The way they talked about the Villani, like they were insects to be stepped on. I know, Barnes said. I've been thinking too. Maybe I was wrong about joining the council. Maybe we don't want to be part of a group like that. But what if we can't protect the Villani? What if we just get ourselves destroyed too? Barnes was quiet for a moment. Ma'am, I've been a soldier for 30 years. I've seen a lot of wars. A lot of people die. But I've never seen anything like these aliens. If we let them be destroyed, we'll become the kind of people who only care about themselves. Helen nodded. She had made her decision, but it helped to know that even the military leaders were starting to agree on Zephyria. Dr. Harper was documenting everything she could about Villani culture. If these people were going to die, she wanted the universe to remember who they had been. She followed Zixtera through the city, recording the beautiful buildings and the peaceful way the Villani lived. Why aren't you afraid? Harper asked her. Friend, don't you want to run or hide? Where would we go? Zixtera replied, her body lights showing calm acceptance. This is our home. These are our people. If we must die, we will die here. But you could fight. I've seen your technology. You could make weapons. Zixtera stopped walking and turned to face Harper. Her lights shifted to show deep sadness. We could make weapons, yes. But if we became killers to save ourselves, we would no longer be Villani. We would become like the Caltharians. Better to die as ourselves than live as monsters. Harper felt tears on her face. These people were braver than any human she had ever met. That evening, something unexpected happened. A new message came through Harper's hidden transmitter. But it wasn't from Earth. It was from Captain Morrison, and he was coming back. Lisa, this is Jake. I'm 3 days out from Zephyria with a small task force. We couldn't wait for official orders. Hold on, we're coming. Harper ran to find Zixtera. My friend Jake is coming back. He's bringing ships. But Zixtera's lights showed worry instead of joy. How many ships? I don't know, he said. A small task force. The Caltharians have 50 warships in orbit around our planet. A small human force cannot defeat them. Harper's hope began to fade. Morrison was brave, but he would be flying into a massacre. On Earth, the final debate was happening. The UN Security Council chamber was packed with representatives from every nation. President Carter stood at the podium, about to give the most important speech of her life. My fellow leaders, she began, we face a choice that will define humanity for generations. Do we help those who need us, or do we look the other way to protect ourselves? She activated a holographic display, showing images that Dr. Harper had sent from Zephyria. The chamber filled with gasps, as representatives saw the beautiful Villani cities and the gentle aliens who had built them. These people have never hurt anyone, Carter continued. They have no weapons, no armies, no desire for conquest. Their greatest achievement is learning how to heal others, and for this, they are going to be destroyed. The Chinese representative stood up. President Carter, we understand your feelings, but Earth has 6 billion people. We cannot risk their lives for aliens we barely know. I understand your concern, Carter replied. But what if we don't have to choose between helping them and protecting ourselves? What if helping them is the best way to protect ourselves? She changed the display to show recordings from the Galactic Council meetings. This is how the Council talks about peaceful species. They see kindness as weakness. They see cooperation as a threat. If we join this council, we'll be expected to destroy other innocent people. If we refuse, they'll destroy us too. The Russian delegate frowned. Are you saying we should fight the entire Galactic Council? I'm saying we should stand with people who share our values. The Villani aren't the only species that's tired of council tyranny. Our intelligence suggests that many alien races are unhappy with council rule. If someone stands up to them, others might follow. Secretary of State Carol West stepped forward. We've received reports from our liaison, Amy Stone. She says at least 6 species in the council are there only because they're afraid. They might switch sides if they see a chance. And if they don't? Asked the British representative. Carter took a deep breath. Then we'll go down fighting for what's right instead of living as cowards. The debate that followed was fierce. Some countries threatened to pull out of the alliance if Earth intervened. Others promised full support. In the end, it came down to a vote, all in favor of military intervention to protect the Villani. Hands went up around the chamber. Carter counted them quickly. It was going to be close. All opposed. More hands went up. Carter's heart sank as she counted. It looked like they were going to lose by 2 votes. Then something unexpected happened. The delegate from India, who had been uncommitted, slowly raised his hand in favor of intervention. A moment later, the Brazilian representative did the same. The motion passes, Carter announced, her voice shaking with emotion. Earth will intervene to protect the Villani. Admiral Collins was waiting outside the chamber. As soon as the vote was announced, Carter called him over. How long until our fleet can reach Sephiria? She asked. The main fleet needs 2 weeks to prepare, Collins replied. But I can have a fast attack group there in 4 days. Morrison is already on his way with a small force, Carter said. They might need backup. I'll send everything we can spare, Collins promised. Ma'am, I hope you know this is going to change everything. I know, Carter replied. But maybe it's time for things to change. Back on Zephyria, the countdown to destruction continued. General Vexter had positioned his ships around the planet like a deadly necklace. Any ship trying to leave was destroyed immediately. The Villani were trapped. Dr. Harper spent her time with the Villani children, teaching them about Earth and learning about their world. Even facing death, the children continued to create beautiful light patterns and ask questions about the stars. Dr. Harper, one young Villani named Clymora asked, "Will you tell your people about us, even if we're gone?" "You're not going to be gone," Harper said, though she wasn't sure she believed it. "My friends are coming to help, but there are so many Caltharian ships," Clymora said. "How can your friends fight them all?" Harper didn't have an answer. She could only hope that humanity would find a way. That night, Zixthara brought Harper to the highest tower in the city. From there, they could see the Caltharian ships orbiting overhead, their weapons pointed down at the planet. "Tomorrow, General, Vexter will demand our final answer," Zixthara said. "Our leaders have decided. We will not become slaves. So you'll fight." "No, we will not fight, and we will not surrender. We will simply refuse to cooperate. If they want to destroy us, they will have to do it themselves." Harper stared at her friend in amazement. "You're going to use passive resistance against an alien army? It is the only weapon we have that doesn't require us to become something we're not." As Harper looked up at the enemy ships, she realized something important. The Villani weren't helpless victims. They were making a choice to die free rather than live as slaves. They were showing the galaxy that there was another way to be strong. She just hoped that Morrison would arrive in time to give them a third option in space. 3 human ships were racing toward Zephyria as fast as their engines could carry them. Captain Morrison stared at the navigation screen, willing his ship to go faster. Behind him came two other vessels, all the force that Earth could spare on short notice. They were outnumbered 50-3, flying toward certain death, but they were going anyway, because that's what humans did when their friends needed help. The question was whether courage would be enough to save a world. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the tactical display as his small fleet approached Sephiria. The screen showed 50 Caltharian warships surrounding the planet, like angry hornets around their nest. His 3 human ships looked like toys in comparison. "Sir, we're being scanned by the Caltharian fleet," reported Lieutenant Kevin Hart from the communications station. "They're demanding to know why we're here." "Tell them we're explorers who got lost," Morrison replied. "Buy us some time to get closer." On the planet below, Dr. Harper was with the Villani leaders when the alert came through. Zixtera's body lights flashed with excitement as she received the message. "Your friends have arrived," she told Harper. "3 ships have entered our system." Harper felt her heart sink. 3 ships against 50 was not a rescue. It was a suicide mission. In the Caltharian flagship, General Vextar laughed when he saw the human vessels on his screen. Humans, the species that keeps begging to join the Council. "What are these insects doing here? Should we destroy them, General?" asked his second-in-command. "Not yet. I want to see what they're planning. This might be amusing." Morrison's ship, the Defiant, led the small human formation toward the planet. Behind him came the Resolute under Captain Ben Foster and the Guardian, commanded by Captain Nina Clark. Each ship carried only basic weapons and a crew of brave volunteers. "Jake, this is insane," Captain Foster said over the communication link. "We can't fight 50 ships with 3. "We're not here to fight," Morrison replied. "We're here to evacuate as many Villani as possible before the main fleet arrives." "What main fleet?" Captain Clark asked. Morrison smiled grimly. "The one Admiral Collins is bringing. We just have to hold out for 3 days." On the planet, the Villani had called an emergency meeting. Dr. Harper watched as hundreds of aliens gathered in the Great Hall, their body lights creating a rainbow of worried colors. The Elder stood before them, her ancient lights barely flickering. "The humans have come to help us, but they are few, and we are many. We cannot ask them to die for us." "But maybe we don't have to," said a younger Villani named Toren. "What if we help them?" "How?" the Elder asked. "We have no weapons. We have our ships," Toren replied. "We have our knowledge. We have our courage." Zixtera stepped forward. "Turan is right. We may not have weapons, but we can still fight in our own way." Above them in space, Morrison was trying to establish contact with the Caltharian commander. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth vessel Defiant. We request permission to evacuate civilians from the planet below." General Vextar's image appeared on Morrison's screen. The Caltharian was even more terrifying up close, with scars covering his black scales and teeth like broken glass. "Humans," Vextar growled, "you have no business here. Leave now, or I will add your ships to the wreckage I'm planning to create." "We can't do that," Morrison replied calmly. "These people are under Earth's protection now." Vextar's eyes glowed brighter with anger. "Earth's protection? You pathetic creatures aren't even members of the Council. You have no authority here." "We have the authority that comes from doing what's right," Morrison said. "Will you let us evacuate the civilians?" "There will be no evacuation," Vextar snarled. "The Villani will submit to Council rule, or they will die. If you interfere, you will die with them." Morrison closed the communication channel and turned to his crew. "Well, you heard him. Any regrets about coming?" Lieutenant Hart grinned. "None, sir. These Villani helped us when we needed it. Now it's our turn." On the planet, Dr. Harper was amazed by what she was seeing. The Villani, who had seemed so passive and peaceful, were organizing themselves for battle. Not to fight with weapons, but to resist in their own way. "What's the plan?" Harper asked Zick. "We're going to save our people," Zixtera replied. And maybe we're going to save yours too. The Vellani had developed a strategy based on their unique abilities. Their ships, while not armed, were faster and more maneuverable than Caltharian vessels. Their biotechnology could interfere with enemy sensors and communications. Most importantly, they knew their own planet better than anyone. Above them, Morrison was coordinating with his other captains. Ben, Nina, listen carefully. We can't win a straight fight, so we're not going to have one. We're going to use hit-and-run tactics, keep them confused, and protect as many evacuation ships as possible. What evacuation ships? Captain Clark asked. The Vellani don't have any. They're building them, Morrison replied. Don't ask me how, but they're somehow converting their civilian vessels into escape pods. It was true. All over Zephyria the Vellani were working with incredible speed to modify their ships. Their biotechnology allowed them to reshape metal and grow new components in hours instead of weeks. They were creating a fleet of small, fast ships designed to slip past the Caltharian blockade. General Vextar was growing impatient. He had given the Vellani their final ultimatum, and now these humans were interfering with his plans. He decided to teach them both a lesson. All ships, attack the human vessels, he ordered, but leave a few pieces so the galaxy can see what happens to those who defy the Council. The space around Zephyria erupted into battle. 20 Caltharian ships moved to surround the 3 human vessels, their weapons charging with deadly energy. But Morrison had been planning for this moment. All ships, scatter, he ordered. Execute Plan Delta. The 3 human ships split up, moving in different directions and using the planet's gravity to boost their speed. The Caltharians, expecting a traditional space battle, were caught off guard by the human tactics. Captain Foster's ship, the Resolute, dove toward the planet's surface, using the atmosphere to mask his heat signature. Caltharian shots missed him by meters as he skimmed through the upper clouds. Captain Clark's Guardian used a different approach, hiding behind Zephyria's 3 moons and using them as shields against enemy fire. When Caltharian ships came after her, she led them through the moon's asteroid field, where their larger ships had trouble maneuvering. Morrison's Defiant stayed in high orbit, drawing the attention of the most enemy ships. He used every trick he had learned in years of space combat, turning his ship's weakness into an advantage. The Caltharians expected him to fight like they did, with big ships and heavy weapons. Instead, he fought like a human, with cleverness and determination. Down on the planet, the first evacuation ships were ready. They were small and looked fragile, but they were fast and could change direction quickly. Most importantly, they were invisible to Caltharian sensors due to Vellani biotechnology. Dr. Harper Zixtera said, "You should go on the first ship." "I'm not leaving without you," Harper replied. "Someone needs to tell your people what happened here if we don't survive." "Then we'll all survive together," Harper said firmly. The battle in space was not going well for the humans. Despite their clever tactics, they were still outnumbered and outgunned. The Resolute had taken heavy damage and was leaking air. The Guardian was running low on fuel from all the high-speed maneuvers. Morrison's Defiant was in the worst shape. Half his weapons were destroyed, his shields were failing, and his ship was bleeding atmosphere from a dozen holes. "Sir, we can't take much more of this," Lieutenant Hart reported. "Just a little longer," Morrison replied. "The evacuation ships are starting to launch." Indeed, the first group of Vellani escape vessels was leaving the planet. They were tiny compared to the warships above, but they moved like schools of fish, darting between the larger vessels and disappearing into the darkness of space. General Vextar was furious. His ships were chasing shadows while their real targets escaped. "Destroy those escape pods," he ordered. But the Vellani ships were too small and too fast. For every one the Caltharians destroyed, 3 more slipped away. The humans were providing just enough distraction to give them a chance. Then disaster struck. Captain Foster's Resolute took a direct hit from a Caltharian heavy cruiser. The ship's main power core was damaged, and it began falling toward the planet. Ben Morrison shouted over the communication link. "Get out of there." "Negative," Foster replied calmly. "My engines are dead, and I'm losing life support. But I can still make a difference." Morrison watched in horror as Foster turned his dying ship toward the largest Caltharian vessel. The Resolute was going to ram the enemy cruiser. "Ben, don't do this. Your crew can still escape." "My crew volunteered for this mission," Foster said. "We all knew the risks. Take care of these people, Jake. They're worth it." The Resolute struck the Caltharian cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the night sky on Zephoria below. The explosion took out 2 more Caltharian vessels that were too close to the blast. The Villani on the planet saw the sacrifice that Captain Foster and his crew had made for them. Their body lights dimmed in mourning for these brave humans who had died to protect people they barely knew. But the sacrifice had given the evacuation more time. Hundreds of Villani's ships were now escaping into space, carrying families and children to safety. The Caltharians were so busy trying to catch them that they couldn't focus on the remaining human ships. Morrison knew they couldn't hold out much longer. His ship was barely functional, and Captain Clark's Guardian was in almost as bad shape. They had saved many Villani, but there were still thousands on the planet below. "Jake," Clark's voice came over the radio. "I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching the system. A lot of ships, moving fast." Morrison checked his long-range sensors and felt his heart leap. "That's Admiral Collins," he said. "The cavalry has arrived." In the distance, a fleet of human warships was approaching Zephoria at maximum speed. The main Earth battle fleet had arrived 3 days early, pushing their engines beyond safe limits to reach the battle in time. General Vextar saw the approaching fleet and snarled with rage. There were only 12 human ships, still outnumbered by his forces, but they were larger and better armed than Morrison's small group. "All ships, prepare for battle," Vextar ordered. "We will destroy these humans and then finish with the Villani." But as the human fleet approached, something unexpected began to happen. Ships that had been hiding in the outer system began to appear on everyone's sensors. They weren't human, and they weren't Caltharian. "This is Admiral Zekthal of the Torrent Fleet," came a new voice over the communication channels. "We stand with the humans and the Villani against Council tyranny." More ships appeared. The Quellan, the Nyar, and even some Caltharian vessels began switching sides. The crews of these ships had been watching the battle, seeing humans willing to die for strangers, and it had inspired them to find their own courage. General Vextar found himself facing not just the human fleet, but a growing alliance of species that were tired of Council rule. The battle for Zephoria was about to become something much larger. The real war was just beginning. Admiral Pete Collins watched his fleet approach the battle around Zephoria. What he saw on his sensors amazed him. 3 small human ships had somehow held off 50 Caltharian vessels long enough for hundreds of Villani to escape. But the cost had been high. The Resolute was gone, and the other 2 ships were barely staying together. "Communications, get me Captain Morrison," Collins ordered. Jake Morrison's tired face appeared on the screen. His uniform was torn, and there was blood on his forehead, but he was still fighting. "Admiral, good to see you," Morrison said with a weak smile. "Things have gotten a bit complicated here." "I can see that," Collins replied. "We're picking up signals from non-Caltharian ships in the system. What's going on?" "Sir, I think we started something bigger than we expected." It was true. The battle around Zephoria had become a symbol throughout the galaxy. News of humans fighting impossible odds to protect a peaceful species had spread to every world in the sector. Species that had been oppressed by the Galactic Council for centuries were finally finding the courage to resist. Admiral Zekthal of the Tauren, was the first to act. Her people had been forced to provide soldiers to the Council's armies for 300 years. When she saw human ships sacrificing themselves for strangers, she decided her people had served tyrants long enough. All Tauren vessels, she broadcast, on all frequencies, we are no longer servants of the Council. We stand with those who protect the innocent. Her words were heard by other species across the galaxy. Captain Mordic of the Quellan trading fleet was supposed to be delivering supplies to the Caltharian forces. Instead, he turned his ships toward Zephoria to help the humans. Even some Caltharian ships began switching sides. Commander Va had been ordered to destroy Vellani evacuation vessels, but when he saw human children on one of the ships he was supposed to kill, he couldn't do it. He turned his weapons on his own former allies instead. General Vextar watched his overwhelming advantage disappear as more ships joined the growing alliance. His 50 vessels were now facing nearly 100 enemy ships of all different species. But he was too proud and too angry to retreat. Cowards and traitors. He roared over the communication channels. The Council will remember this betrayal. You will all burn for this. The only thing burning today will be your ships. Admiral Collins replied calmly. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated with respect. Never, Vextar screamed. All ships, attack, destroy them all. The space around Zephoria exploded into the largest battle the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. But this wasn't like the old wars of conquest that the Council was used to fighting. This was different species working together, protecting each other, fighting for something they believed in, on the planet below. Dr. Harper watched the battle through the Vellani observatory. The lights in the sky looked like fireworks, but she knew each flash meant someone was dying up there. Your people are brave, Sixthera said, standing beside her. They came so far to help us. It's not just my people anymore, Harper replied, watching alien ships of a dozen different designs fighting side by side. Look at them, they're all working together. The battle raged for hours. The Alliance ships used tactics the Caltharians had never seen before. Human vessels would dart in fast and hard, then retreat behind alien shields. Tauren ships would use their advanced sensors to guide human missiles to their targets. Quellan traders, not built for fighting, served as mobile hospitals and supply vessels. The most amazing sight was the Vellani themselves. Though they had no weapons, they flew their small ships directly into the battle zone, rescuing pilots from destroyed vessels, regardless of which side they had been fighting for. They saved human pilots, alien rebels, and even Caltharian crews, who had been shot down. General Vextar couldn't understand what he was seeing. Why are they saving our pilots? He demanded of his staff. I don't know, sir, his aide replied. They're treating wounded Caltharians, the same as everyone else. This act of mercy began to affect the Caltharian crews. They had been taught that other species were inferior, that only strength mattered. But here were these peaceful Vellani risking their lives to save Caltharian soldiers who had come to destroy them. Commander Jektar of the Caltharian cruiser Dark Storm watched a Vellani rescue ship pull 3 of his crew members from their damaged fighter. The little alien ship could have left them to die, but instead it carried them to safety. All stop, Jektar ordered. Sir? His weapons officer asked in confusion. I said all stop. Stand down weapons. But sir, General Vextar ordered us to attack. Looked at his crew, soldiers he had served with for 20 years. I've fought in 30 battles for the Council. I've destroyed planets and enslaved species. But I've never seen an enemy save the life of someone who came to kill them. Maybe we're fighting for the wrong side. The Dark Storm stopped firing and turned away from the battle. Soon, other Caltharian ships began following its example. The Council's most loyal soldiers were starting to question everything they had been taught. General Vextar saw his fleet falling apart around him. In desperation, he made a terrible decision. If I can't have victory, he snarled. "I'll have revenge. Target the planet's surface. We'll destroy the Villani cities." "Sir, that would be genocide," his tactical officer protested. "Do it," Vex roared. The remaining loyal Caltharian ships turned their weapons toward Zephyria. If they couldn't win the battle, they would at least complete their original mission of destroying the Villani. But they never got the chance. Admiral Collins had been watching for exactly this move. "All ships, protect the planet," he ordered. The Alliance fleet moved between the Caltharian ships and Zephyria, forming a wall of metal and courage. Human ships, that were already damaged, took positions directly in the path of the incoming fire. They knew they couldn't survive another attack, but they stayed anyway. Captain Nina Clark's Guardian was one of those ships. Her vessel was held together by emergency patches and hope, but she positioned it directly between a Caltharian heavy cruiser and the planet below. "Nina, get out of there," Admiral Collins ordered. "Your ship can't take another hit." "Understood, sir," Clark replied. "But if we move, they'll have a clear shot at the cities below. We're staying." The Caltharian heavy cruiser fired its main weapon. The Guardian absorbed the blast with its failing shields, protecting the millions of Villani on the planet below. The human ship was torn apart by the attack, but not before its sacrifice gave the other Alliance ships time to destroy the Caltharian vessel. This final act of human sacrifice broke something inside General Vexstar. He had spent his life believing that only the strong deserved to survive, but here were these weak humans dying to protect others. It made no sense to him. "Why?" he asked, over the open communication channel. "Why do you throw your lives away for aliens you barely know?" Admiral Collins answered him. "Because that's what civilized people do. We protect those who can't protect themselves." "It's madness," Vexstar said. "Maybe," Collins replied, "but it's our madness." The battle was almost over. Most of the Caltharian fleet had either been destroyed or had switched sides. Only Vex's flagship and a few loyal vessels remained. But the general wasn't finished. In his rage and confusion, he activated his ship's self-destruct sequence and aimed his vessel at the planet below. If he was going to die, he would take as many Villani with him as possible. "This is for the Council," he screamed as his ship began its final dive toward Zephyria. The Alliance fleet tried to stop him, but they were too far away. The massive flagship was going to crash into the largest Villani city, killing millions of innocent people. Then something unexpected happened. Commander Jektar's Dark Storm, the ship that had stopped fighting earlier, suddenly accelerated toward Vexstar's vessel. "This is Jektar," the commander broadcast. "I have served the Council for 20 years, but I won't be part of genocide. Not today." The Dark Storm rammed Vexstar's flagship just before it reached the planet's atmosphere. Both ships exploded in space, their debris burning up harmlessly in Zephyria's sky like falling stars. The battle was over. The remaining Caltharian ships surrendered, their crews no longer willing to fight for leaders who would commit genocide on the planet below. The Villani emerged from their shelters to see the night sky filled with ships from a dozen different species. They had been saved not just by humans, but by an alliance of people who had found the courage to stand up for what was right. Dr. Harper stood with Zixthera in the great hall where this had all begun. The room was filled with representatives from all the species that had fought in the battle. They were planning something that had never existed before, a galactic alliance based on cooperation instead of domination. "What will you call it?" Harper asked Admiral Collins. "The Galactic Federation of Free Worlds," Collins replied. "Any species that wants to join can join, as long as they agree to protect others and settle disputes peacefully." "And what about the old Galactic Council?" Admiral Zekthal answered that question. "Most of their member species are already asking to join our federation instead. The council is finished." Zixthera stepped forward, her body lights showing joy and gratitude. "Our people would like to be the first to formally join this new federation." We offer our knowledge and our friendship to all who seek peace. Accepted, Collins said with a smile. Welcome to the Federation. As the ceremony continued, Harper looked round at the amazing sight. Humans, Villani, Tauron, Quellan, and even former Caltharians were working together, planning a future where no species would have to face extinction alone. Captain Morrison, his arm in a sling but very much alive, joined her at the observation window. So, was it worth it? He asked. Harper looked up at the sky, where the ships of the new Federation were patrolling together, protecting this world and all the others. Jake, I think we just changed the entire galaxy, for the better. Definitely, for the better. 6 months later, the Federation had grown to include 47 different species. The old Council's empire was gone, replaced by a democracy where every world had a voice. Trade flowed freely between planets, knowledge was shared openly, and conflicts were resolved through discussion instead of warfare. The Villani had become something special in this new galaxy. Their philosophy of healing and helping had spread to other worlds. Their medical advances had eliminated diseases that had plagued aliens for centuries. Their agricultural techniques had ended hunger on dozens of planets. But most importantly, they had shown the galaxy that there was another way to be strong, not through conquest and fear, but through compassion and cooperation. Earth had never joined the old Galactic Council. Instead, they had helped create something far better. The Federation's headquarters was built on a space station orbiting Zerg, a symbol of what could be accomplished when different people worked together. Dr. Harper had been chosen as the first human ambassador to the Federation Council. As she prepared for her first official meeting, Zixthera visited her. "Are you nervous?" the Villani asked, her lights showing friendly concern. "A little," Harper admitted. "This is all so new." "That's what makes it wonderful," Zixthera replied. "We're building something that has never existed before. A galaxy where being different is celebrated, not punished." As Harper walked into the council chamber, she saw representatives from dozens of species sitting together, discussing trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. At the head of the table sat Admiral Collins, now the Federation's first president, chosen unanimously by all member worlds. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications," Collins announced. "Let's begin today's session of the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds." Harper took her seat and smiled. They had started this journey trying to save one small planet. Instead, they had saved an entire galaxy and shown the universe that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the willingness to protect. The Villani had prayed that Earth would intervene, and Earth had answered. But in the end, they had all saved each other